The global chip shortage is real and it's coming for your tech. Also called semiconductor shortage, seems to have an impact on everyone in the world. Just about everything has silicon chips on it, from phone and computer to kitchen appliances and even cars. And all of this tech is becoming more and more advanced, so the best processors aren't just in the latest gaming PC. A disruption in production of these chips result in massive shortages in nearly every consumer good that has electronics in it or needs any machinery at some point in its production. This can affect everything from the quality of real services in a city to the food getting to supermarkets. It goes well beyond impacting the availability of consumer goods like the best monitor, phones, iPads or computers. We are currently in such a time of disruption that consumers have experienced a shortage of just about everything over the past 2 years, and it's a major driver of global price inflation on most consumer goods. Hi, my name is Gio. Hope you're doing well. In this episode, let's take a look at what the global chip shortage is, why it's happening, and how long it will be before we see any improvement. Let's get right into it. What is a chip shortage? A chip shortage is a global problem that is affecting the production of many types of electronic devices. A chip is a small piece of silicon that contains circuitry that allows it to perform a specific function. Chips are used in everything from phones and computers to cars and medical devices. The current chip shortage began in early 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the supply chain for chips. Many factories in China, where a large number of chips are made, were forced to shut down due to the pandemic. This led to a decrease in the production of chips. The chip shortage has caused problems for many companies that use chips in their product. For example, Apple has to delay the production of its new iPhone by several months due to the shortage, and Tesla has had to stop production of its cars due to the lack of chips. The chip shortage is expected to continue and could even get worse. Experts say that it could take up to 2 years for the supply chain to recover from the effects of the pandemic. Here are the top 4 reasons for the chip shortage. Reason number 1, the global automobile sector. The auto sector is one of the major contributors to the semiconductor chips shortage. Computer chips are used in modern automobiles, panels, and slashing security systems. Car makers suspended orders for new chips at the start of COVID-19, anticipating a reduction in demand for new cars. Automobile manufacturers couldn't keep up with the standard manufacturing schedules. Car makers and governments worldwide are currently attempting to enhance computer chips output. However, this will take time. Meanwhile, the global shortage of microchips will remain a source of frustration for companies. The rising demand for electronics. The COVID-19 pandemic triggered a wave of factory closures that suspended global production. People were forced to stay at home looking for things to do and methods to occupy themselves and their family members simultaneously. This resulted in a massive surge in consumer electronics demand, but companies producing them could not keep up with the demand. This resulted in a chain reaction of shortage in the production of the microchips. As a result, the supply was either limited or restricted. A disturbed logistical approach. Another issue contributing to the shortage is the transportation of chips from one place to another. Semiconductor chips are the base products for sectors like technology, machinery, and many more. With a supply shortage of these chips, businesses have not taken their usual pace in functioning like before. The COVID-19 pandemic created a massive supply system. When shipping ports that closed early in the epidemic opened, they encountered freight constraints, leaving stocks of merchandise waiting to be delivered. The US-China trade war. The final factor that is contributing to the chip shortage is the US-China trade war. This has made it difficult for Chinese companies to buy chips and has also caused disruption in the supply chain. 4 critical industries affected by the chip shortage. The auto industry. Even the most basic new cars rely on specialized microchips to function. By the end of July, at least 17 factories in Europe and North America had either stopped or slowed production for lack of computer chips, according to the Washington Post. Some of the biggest names in industry, including Tesla, BMW, General Motors, and Ford, have been hurt by the shortage. The global auto industry will crack out 4 million fewer vehicles this year and and lose $110 billion in sales. Consumer electronics, the world's car maker, are probably kicking themselves now for abandoning open chip order when they slashed vehicle production forecast early in the pandemic. The consumer electronic industry scooped many of these chips, but even so, makers of everything from laptops and TVs to gaming consoles and smartphones are raising prices due to tight supply. Consumer electronics still can't function without simple semiconductors. Just one example is HP, which raised the prices of printers by 20% on average in a single year, according to the Wall Street Journal. Bloomberg reported that Sony won't produce enough supplies of its upcoming PlayStation consoles until at least end of 2022. Appliances, it's not just cars and phones that can't work without the chip-dependent computers that power them. Your dishwasher, refrigerator, freezer, and microwave are all pretty much useless without semiconductors, even if they are not particularly sophisticated. Reuters was reporting that Whirlpool's operation was down about 10% because of the chip shortage. LED lighting. At the start of the year, LED Insight reported that companies like Apple and Samsung were preparing to debut their latest laptops, tablets, and TVs. They all had one thing in common. They were all equipped with mini LED backlights powered by chips that were increasingly hard to find. With manufacturers scrambling to scoop up what was left of the chips that make LED lighting possible, prices naturally rises and contributed to the inflation that defined the economy. When will the global chip shortage end? How long the chip shortage will last depends on who is doing the forecasting. Gartner has estimated that the semiconductor shortage will extend at least till the end of the year and has warned that there could be a year lead time for orders. Forrester said it's expect the chip shortage to continue to 2022 and into 2023. The Institution of Electronical and Electronics Engineer wrote that supply will grow from older chip fabs, and more than 40 companies will increase capacity by more than 750,000 wafers per month by the end of 2022. There has been some momentum in building new manufacturer plants. Intel said it will spend $20 billion in building 2 new factories in Arizona, and TSMC plans to spend $28 billion on new chips and building plans to increase capacity. Texas Instruments announced plans to build as many as 4 new semiconductor plants in Texas at an estimated $30 billion. Construction of the first 2 fabrication plants is scheduled to begin this year, and production of Texas Instruments 300mm wafer is expected to start by 2022, according to the company. Texas Instruments will have the option to build out 2 additional plants at the site in the future. Samsung announced it will build a $17 billion plant starting this year. Other states and cities around the country are trying to attract the company with incentives in the hopes of having chip production in their areas. In terms of federal efforts, passed a $250 billion spending bill, one of the largest industrial bills in US history, which included $54 billion to increase production and research into semiconductors. Is there a solution? Proposing a solution for an entire market crisis is not easy, since the evolution of the situation is multifactorial and not even the experts can predict a clear future. What we do know is that companies have to adapt to circumstances and try to continue maintaining their sales and production. This can be achieved by maybe hiring more employees or using their means of production in a better way. Tesla, for example, has decided to rewrite the code of its own vehicles to be able to use alternative suppliers and thus survive the shortage. In conclusion, chip shortages are likely to happen due to the pandemic and several other factors. The best way to avoid these shortages is by being proactive and planning. Chip manufacturers need to increase their production capacity and work with their suppliers to ensure a steady supply of chips. Governments also needs to provide incentive for companies to invest in the manufacturing of chips. In the meantime, all users can do is be patient and wait for their favorite products to be released again. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you find this content helpful, smash that like and subscribe button to help the channel grow, turn on the notification bell, and check out all the links in the description down below. See you in the next video. Stay safe.